I'm going to talk to you today about narcissism and post-traumatic stress disorder and complex post-traumatic stress disorder and how it causes these disorders. If you stick with me to the end, I will tell you how these disorders affect the brain emotionally and physically. Narcissistic abuse is a pattern of chronic emotional and psychological manipulation, which can lead to post-traumatic stress disorder, or more commonly, complex post-traumatic stress disorder. The key difference is that PTSD generally results from a single traumatic event, while CPTSD is from prolonged repeated trauma, which is typical of narcissistic relationships. PTSD tends to be after a person experiences, witnesses, or learns about an event that involves an actual threatened death, serious injury, or sexual violence or traumatic events. PTSD includes accidents, physical or sexual assault, military combat, natural disasters, witnessing violence or death, medical emergencies, or sudden death of a loved one. The causes of CPTSD develops from chronic long-term exposure to traumatic situations where escape is difficult or impossible. This can occur during developmental stages and can impact a person's sense of self and relationships. Examples of chronic trauma can lead to CPTSD include prolonged abuse of or neglect, ongoing domestic violence or narcissism, torture, kidnapping, slavery, being a prisoner of war, living in a war zone, or human trafficking. Narcissistic abuse creates a state of constant fear and unpredictability, keeping the victim's nervous system in survival mode. The narcissist uses key tactics which include gaslighting. This makes the victim doubt their own memory, perception, and sanity, which erodes a sense of reality and self. I have a video called Gaslighting Explains. The link is below. They like to use tactics of love bombing and then the devaluation cycle. This includes intense affection leading to cruel belittlement or silent treatment, which keeps the victim off balance and craving approval. There is the tactic of isolation. The abuser cuts the victim off from external support systems like family and friends, making them more dependent on the narcissist. And the narcissist gains more control, and this intensifies the trauma. It has been proven that if you have supports in place, you end up having less trauma. Then there's the tactic of constant criticism and blame shifting. This is a relentless attack on the victim's self-worth, leading to feelings of worthlessness, shame, and guilt. Then there's the tactic of constant criticism and blame shifting. This is a relentless attack on the victim's self-worth, leading to feelings of worthlessness, shame, and guilt. I significantly have struggled with this, not in the way listed here, but with issues of being criticized and making mistakes. And I tell you, starting this YouTube channel has really stretched me in that area. I have 2 videos I recommend explaining all these things. The one is why don't they just leave? The link is below. And why leaving is so hard. That link is below. Hi, my name is Maria, and I'm studying to become a life coach specializing in narcissistic abuse and trauma recovery. I hope my videos are helpful, informative, and validating for you. Whether you are presently in or have been in a narcissistic abusive relationship, or have a friend or family member that presently is or has been in a narcissistic abusive relationship, or maybe you have a friend or family member that is a narcissist, or a boss, a colleague, a roommate. It does not have to be a romantic relationship. I will talk about the symptoms of PTSD versus CPTSD. And there's categories. The first one is re-experiencing. PTSD symptoms are flashbacks, visual or emotional nightmares, and intrusive thoughts or memories. CPTSD includes all of these, plus emotional flashbacks involving reliving feelings of shame, hopelessness. It is not always visual. The next symptom is avoidance. PTSD symptoms include actively avoiding reminders of the trauma, like people, places, and conversations. CPTSD includes all of these, plus difficulty in forming new healthy relationships due to trust issues and fear of abandonment. I have particularly struggled in that area. The next symptom is arousal or reactivity. PTSD symptoms include hypervigilance, constantly being on alert, startled, difficulty concentrating, and sleep, irritability, and aggression. CPTSD includes all of these, plus severe problems with emotional regulation, which involves explosive anger, persistent sadness, and emotional numbness, not being aware of your emotions. The last symptom is cognition and mood. PTSD, you will experience negative thoughts and beliefs about oneself or the world, have memory problems, detachment issues, loss of interest in activities. CPTSD includes all of these, plus negative self-concept, deep feelings of shame, guilt, worthlessness, and they have a pervasive sense of being different or defective. So there is hope. I want to talk about healing and recovery. You can rescue yourself from the situation going no contact. It often minimizes triggers. But I understand this is so difficult. I have lived through this. It is hard to leave, but when you feel ready, do it. I did it, and I actually did have less triggers. You can go for therapy, but make sure you go to a counselor or therapist that specializes in PTSD or CPTSD and understands how the brain functions and how it's changed. I went to a regular therapist at one point for the trauma, and it only made matters worse. It is very important to go to someone who specializes in this. It is very important to have your support systems in place. Connecting with supportive family and friends is helpful. And I want to say that friends and family that are not understanding and are invalidating you, you need to separate yourself. And like I said earlier, if you have supportive friends and family, it helps reduce the trauma. And to find a support group, it is so helpful. I found it very helpful myself. I also can't express enough the self-care, prioritizing physical, mental well-being, sleep, good sleep, and healthy eating activities. I also like to say that being in nature really helps with self-care. And I also schedule every week 7 hours to be alone on the weekend, and I only work 4 days a week for self-care. Yes, I make less money, but it's worth it for me. I just released a video on self-care. The link is below. It explains all of this. So not everyone who experiences trauma develops PTSD or CPTSD. Several factors can include who develop these conditions, such as genetics, neurological changes from trauma, severity and duration of trauma, social supports, and a history of previous trauma. If you like my video and find it informational or helpful, please like, share, subscribe, and let me know if you feel like you have PTSD or CPTSD or have some of these symptoms and your experiences around trauma. I want to hear your stories, and let me know if you have any ideas for other videos. So now I'm going to talk to you about the post-traumatic stress disorder and complex post-traumatic stress disorder and how it causes significant and largely overlapping changes in the brain structure and function, primarily affecting 4 key regions: the amygdala, the hippocampus, the medial frontal cortex, and the insula. Imagine my fist as the brain stem, like this. This is the amygdala right here where my fist is. This is the hippocampus. This is the frontal cortex, like the front of your forehead, and the insula is here. The frontal cortex is where your emotions are processed. So hyperactive amygdala, like my fist, makes the brain's alarm system responsible for processing emotions and fear responses. In both PTSD and CPTSD, it becomes overly sensitive and reacting, triggering fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response to easily remaining in high alert when the actual danger has passed. This leads to symptoms like hypervigilance and exaggerated response. I have a video on reclaiming yourself after narcissistic abuse. It explains all this. The link is below. So I have an analogy, and I have it in that last video. You can imagine that you're in Africa and you come face to face with a tiger. You get traumatized by that. When you come back home, you go to someone's place and they had a large picture on their wall of a tiger. It startled you and really traumatized you. Again, you know very well that picture of the tiger is not real. This describes the effects on your brain. I also recommend the book called The Body Keeps a Score. There's a link below where you can order that on Amazon. There's also the reduced hippocampal volume and function of the hippocampus. This is crucial for memory storage, retrieval, and contextualizing events. Trauma can reduce its size and pure function, making it difficult to differentiate from current safe situations. And like the tiger analogy, the hippocampus is like the wrist on the brainstem right here. I have heard personally that all these different areas I've talked about in the brain shrink, and then that can cause vibrating, which causes stress and anxiety. You can't control this. This is not mind over matter. This is where a lot of people in the general public misunderstand people with PTSD and complex PTSD. When you're misunderstood, that causes more anxiety and fear and trauma. It's impossible to control this. So what do? Well, there are techniques that you can do, like listening to spa music, using a weighted blanket, rocking in a swing, taking a cold shower, many other things to calm you down. I have a video called Trauma Responses and Managing Them. It's all explained in there. The link is below. Then there is the underactive medial frontal cortex. That's up here, the front part of the brain that acts like a brake system for the amygdala. The hypothalamus, the gland in the brain, the pituitary gland in the brain, the adrenals are glands that rest on the kidneys. All these are in the endocrine system, which is to do with ducts and glands. These all affect your hormones. You have heard of adrenaline, where there's adrenal fatigue. This is related to abnormal cortisol levels, which can be low, normal, or high, depending on the individual and stage of trauma, and changes in the serotonin, dopamine levels affecting mood, arousal, memory, and decoding. There's the heightened activation of the insula, which is above the amygdala. This is the amygdala, it's up there. The insula is the brain region involved with self-awareness, emotional response, and processing bodily sensations. There's a heightened activity in people with CPTSD compared to those with PTSD. Heart rate in CPTSD reflects pervasive autonomic nervous system dysregulation. The autonomic nervous system has to do with your heart rate, your breathing, the involuntary things in your body. It's like automatic, but it's autonomic. In essence, while PTSD and CPTSD share core neutral changes related to fear processing and memory, CPTSD involves additional or more pronounced alterations, particularly in areas related to emotional control, self-perception, and bodily awareness. I hope you have found this video helpful and very informational, and helping you understand how the body functions during and after stress. If you do not suffer from PTSD or CPTSD, I hope this helps you develop an understanding and extra patience for those who have suffered from these conditions. I will see you in the next video.